Hey, this is Chris Ballew from the Presidents of the United States of America and Casper Babypants and Chris Ballew, and you're listening to the Nothing Shocking Podcast.
Want to know what's going on in the world of music? Then tune in to the Nothing Shocking Podcast, a non-genre based, all ages friendly rock and roll program. Join us weekly for interviews with all your favorite rock stars from the mainstream to the underground. You can find us at nothingshocking.libsyn.com or anywhere you download podcasts.
Welcome to the night. You think you know Night Demon? Then the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast is for you. Step into the darkness as we peel back the curtain to give you an unprecedented, all-access look into the mind and the heart of the demon. We're talking band history, song analysis, studio anecdotes, stories from the road. It's everything a diehard Night Demon fan could want and more. This is the only place to learn the inside scoop, the deep dive trivia, the untold tales from the band members themselves and those closest to the Night Demon story. Need more? The sacred Night Demon Crypt will be pried open to reveal demo recordings that have never before seen the light of day, all with in-depth commentary by the band and the people who were there for the writing and recording process. This is a gold mine, a treasure trove of all things Night Demon. Head over to nightdemon.net or wherever you listen to podcasts.
We're putting the band back together.
The numbers all go to 11.
I'm talking about bands that rock. Led Zeppelin. What about Sabbath? AC/DC. Motorhead.
Does that mean it's louder? Isn't it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it?
We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
I get up off the ground and raise my head. Days like this, think I should be dead. One for Satan, two for me. Let's cheat the devil, it's fun, don't you agree?
Welcome to the Nothing Shocking Podcast. I'm your co-host, Jeff Untied, and with me in the Dog Bowl Studios is
Coach Nez.
You can find the Nothing Shocking Podcast on Libsyn or any podcatchers. Like our Facebook page or follow us on Twitter at NoShockPod.
You can also find the Nothing Shocking Podcast on Rock Rage Radio every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. Central Time. Our sponsor is Ragged Records, located in downtown Rock Island, Illinois, and downtown Davenport, Iowa. We would like to thank the Hong Kong Sleepover for allowing us to use their music for our intro and bumper ending. Tonight's guest is
Chris Ballew, the Presidents of the United States of America.
Casper Babypants.
Yeah.
And solo stuff.
Yeah, he's got a band called Giraffes.
Oh, Giraffes, that's right. Yeah, totally forgot about that. He's promoting the final Casper Babypants album that's going to be released in 2022, I believe.
20th, I believe. 20th album.
The 20th album, yeah. And so he's also wanting to promote his new solo work. Yep. And so we had a nice, cordial conversation with him about both ventures. Yeah. A little bit of Presidents of the United States.
And we got to delve a little bit into, I'm a big, not only Presidents fan from back in the day, but Mark Sandman from Morphine.
Yes.
And, we talk a little bit about that connection in the past, so that's pretty cool for me.
Such a cool interview. Hey, let's get to it right now.
All right, good night.
Good night. Chris, welcome to the Nothing Shocking Podcast. I'd like to introduce to you my co-host, Jeff Untied.
Chris, this is going to be fun to talk to you tonight.
Hello.
Well, hey, this is exciting because Jeff here is a huge Presidents of the United States fan, so I hurried and got you on here because I knew that he was such a huge fan. So welcome to the Nothing Shocking Podcast. We're happy to have you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Thanks for inviting me. It's nice to be invited somewhere these days.
Well, let's get started here. So with COVID-19 still kind of looming, how have you kept yourself busy during the pandemic?
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
I'm choking.
Yeah, it looks like you've been busy.
Choking on that question. Hold on. I have kept myself... Whoa, I really am choking on that question. Wait a second. Hold on. I need a sip of tea.
Sounds good.
Okay. I have kept myself busy by, well, I'm kind of wrapping up the Casper Babypants thing, which is something I've been doing for the last 12 years, and I started a whole new series of albums. I've got one out and one coming out in early 2022. So I shifted gears musically. I took a huge break from music, about 8 months, where I took my studio apart, and so I used the opportunity of being isolated to just sort of stop and be still for a long time. We're also selling a house that my wife and I have lived in for the last 12 years, and we've remodeled and built a house on an island.
Oh,
so
wow.
That's busy. Those are the bullet points.
Very much so. Well, this November you'll be releasing the last Casper Babypants record. Can you talk a little bit more about the final album and why are you retiring the Casper Babypants name?
Yeah, well, my entire sort of life as a musician has been based on following impulses, or following, not really impulses, but more like a message from beyond or something. Like I feel myself being pulled in certain directions, and then my job is to just not get in my own way and follow that impulse or that kind of, message in the dark or something. And so for the last, 12 years, I've maintained this impulse to make music for little kids and parents, and really, do music that keeps the parents and the little kids both really genuinely happy, like aesthetically pleased and all that. And that's been a really fantastic challenge, and something that I looked for many years before I found the right chemistry. And when I found it, I was so happy and elated, and this volcano of creativity went off and followed the path, and then the path ended. And all of a sudden the impulse was not there, and I had put out, this is my 19th record coming out in November, and it'll make a library of about 320 songs. So I think I said what I have to say. I, created a body of work that can live on, and a new impulse has come along, and a new message from the ether has beckoned me, and so I'm following that one.
Awesome.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because, I think a lot of people, well, I don't know, I can't speak for other people, but for myself, I really felt a instinctual aversion to pigeonholing myself and saying, this is it, this is the destination, this is who I am. Creatively and personally, I've always thought like it felt better to me to be available for a new, a new direction when it just when the path just kind of appears. You know what? I think about that scene in the second Raiders of the Lost Ark movie where Indiana Jones has to get across a chasm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's no bridge, but he realizes that the trick is he has to believe and he has to step off, and then the bridge will appear. It's kind of like that.
Oh,
yeah.
Good analogy.
Yeah.
Jeff, go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, I was just seeing under your own name, Chris Ballew, you have in 2021 you released an album, I Am Not Me, and then you said you have another album coming out?
Yeah. I have a second record called Soul Unfolded coming out on January 21st. So my plan is to it's kind of like a Beatles move where they stopped playing live and they just started making records. And I'm not saying anything official, but right now my impulse is to also stop playing Casper shows. And so I'm kind of, pulling a Sgt. Pepper's and just becoming a studio act, which is kind of fun. It's kind of what I enjoy most these days anyway. So yeah, my plan is to do one like the Beatles did, 2 a year for as long as I can maintain it.
Oh, yeah. So cool.
Nice.
I kind of want to bring this back to Casper Babypants, but some of our listeners might not know the origins of Casper Babypants. And can you kind of talk a little bit more about how this musical venture all started for you?
Yeah, it was a long search. Basically, when the excuse me, I still have that first question stuck in my throat. When the president started out, it was very thrilling and very exciting to suddenly have all this attention and, very important people telling us we were great and, sold out shows and everything. But something inside me was like, I need to get out of here. I don't know what it was, but I think what it was a feeling that I was not in control of the parameters of my own happiness. You know, that there was a lot of outside forces that were determining my happiness, kind of like when you're really into sports and your team keeps breaking your heart. You know, you can't control the ball going in the net or the hole or wherever the ball is going, and yet you are emotionally wrecked when the results are not great. So I felt this like, ooh, this is way too complicated and too many fingers in the pie and too many cooks in the kitchen, or whatever analogy you want to use. So I immediately started setting about to find something that I could do on my own. And so I started a virtual band called the Giraffes.
Yeah.
And I tried jamming with different people. I turned the Giraffes into a live band. I started a band with Tad from the Young Fresh Fellows and called Chris and Tad, and I had all these things going, but kind of none of them were really clicking. And I started to, this took like 10 or 15 years, and I was experimenting on the side. I made all this weird kind of, I called it sampledelic music. It's like taking old records and beatbox stuff and break beats and smashing them together like Hawaiian guitar and John Bonham's drums and trying to make that work. So that was all about like being, crafty with the technology. And, I started a band with Sir Mix-a-Lot during that time. And none of it was really clicking. And over time, I felt myself writing more and more quiet, simple, acoustic, innocent-sounding songs. But I still didn't know who they were for. I just thought, this maybe is a good way to go. Like, it's not about having another band. It's more about doing something small and scaled down for just one person. And then I met my second wife, Kate, and her artwork just shot through me like a bullet. It was very simple and innocent and bright and well-crafted and had animals, and it was paper and organic-y and kind of had all the adjectives that I wanted to use to describe this elusive music that I couldn't figure out. And so I started making songs kind of inspired by her artwork, and then literally this ginormous cartoon light bulb went off over my head, and I realized I am supposed to be making music for 0 to 6-year-olds and their parents. So it was like the end of a massive search. And so that's why I think when I realized it and when I realized, it's just me, I want to work alone, and, I want to make something that sounds small scale, and it also had this really great sort of purpose in the world, which was to make families come together over a shared aesthetic experience, kind of strengthen the parent-child bond even further, and maybe calm the nerves of a frazzled parent by keeping their aesthetics in mind as I make this music, instead of, Baby Shark making them want to shoot themselves in the face. So I had all this purpose that it was bottled up, and looking for some way to, aesthetically match my personality and also kind of find a place in the world that was helpful. So it fit the bill, and that's how I found it. So, and again, it kind of found me. It was like Kate's art really kind of was this curled finger saying, "Come on, here we go." So I just followed the smell.
That's an amazing story. How artwork, somebody else's piece of art, can inspire musical inspiration. It's so interesting to hear you tell that story. But I kind of want to bring this to your solo work. When comparing the creative process of that first solo album to the second album that will be coming out here shortly, how have things changed for you as a solo artist? I guess in the writing and recording process of both albums, if you can compare.
Oh, man, this is a whole other way of writing and recording. It's weird. So about 2 years ago, I had a couple friends over here, Barrett Martin from ex-Screaming Trees, great drummer. We've been friends since the 90s, and Pete Droge, singer-songwriter from, again, the 90s. And I was telling them that I was having this funny feeling, like this abstract kind of little shimmering abstract doorway that was, I could feel what it would sound like. It would sound kind of groovy. I didn't know what the themes of the lyrics would be yet, but it would be kind of distorted, kind of groovy, kind of loopy, kind of relaxing, kind of dancey. And I told them about it, like, guys, I feel like something's pulling me somewhere. And then it went away. and I forgot about it. And I don't know I can't remember exactly what got me back to that, to that pursuit of whatever that vague thing was. I think it was like I kind of dove back into a band called Spacemen 3 that I loved in the 80s, and the solo projects that came out of that band, which is the band Spiritualized, and what was the other one? Jason, oh gosh, I can't remember his last name. Well, anyway, there were 2 solo acts that came out of that. And I started diving into that music, and it's very kind of like droney and loopy. And in the meantime, I started getting into Ram Dass, who is this amazing spiritual teacher guy. And he's amazing because he's not just, about high ideas about enlightenment and meditation and consciousness. He's also very human, and he's very fallible, and he's funny, and he is, realistic about the struggle to find peace. And so I've been meditating and doing Qigong routine and, kind of a spiritual practice that's like stretching and breathing and stuff like that for years and years, like 15 years every day. And so the Ram Dass stuff started really resonating with me, and I had made artwork previous to this that was all about kind of ideas that would come to me about the ego-consciousness relationship. So I was making artwork at the same time, black and white artwork that was really like kind of totems or abstractions of these notions that would come to me during my meditation practice about ego management and sort of the relationship between your consciousness and your ego and your pure energy self, and this whole dialogue that goes on in all of our bodies and our minds about, death and birth and like the Matrix is real and all that stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So I started writing lyrics based on that because I already had a vocabulary in that realm because I'd been making visual art about it. So then I started writing these kind of abstract lyrics and taking my Spacemen 3 kind of roots of droney, loopy, kind of distorty, heavy stuff and smash them together, and they fit perfectly. And they fit in such a way where there's a million ways to fit them together and a million different... it felt like another creative volcano like Casper Babypants had been on cork. And all of a sudden I was like, I could do this, and I could try this. I'd also been making ambient music for many, many years, and I started taking some of those ambient pieces and putting beats to them, and that was kind of how the music kind of started to evolve. And then what happened was, it was so different than writing for Casper or the Presidents or anything else, where I would kind of come up with an idea and then write a song that described a vision, like something visual. This was a lot more abstract, and it was also about not, like I used to think, if I wrote a little bit of lyric or a little bit of music, I'd think, that might be a song. I should really sit down and work on it, and kind of work it out and try to make it work. And with this music, it's really more about not reaching, not grabbing for the idea, just allowing the idea to flow in. And if it doesn't flow in, then I got to figure that it wasn't the right chemistry, and that's fine. Or if I start an instrumental and I think it's going to turn into a song with lyrics and I lose interest in it, I just file it away and I don't sweat it. I don't grab. I don't try to snag or reach for the ideas.
Well, that's kind of what I was going to ask you. Do you like generally write a set of, write lyrics or poems and then try to match them to music, or do you come up with the melodies and then try to come up with the words later?
Oh, that's a good question, because in this case, it's funny, people ask that, and I say, well, it's always different. But really, with this new music I'm making, it's not ever different. It's generally, I'll come up with the music first and kind of get a groove going, and it's very, very looped. There's no dynamics or anything. It's just the basic loop. And then I open up a couple tracks, and I just babble. I mean, I just sing the most ridiculous, like, Samba Gab Duber and Lamatapo. I got Sap Tap Rabbledy Bobity Lamb. It's like scatting, and I say the same dumb stuff over and over again that I always say. But then when I listen back, somewhere in there is like a little phrase or a twist or a melody line or something that's like, that could be good. That's a seed. Let me kind of tease that out. And then, so it's really like patient listening and being like there's a song on my first album called Radar Mind, which is about that. I just kind of put on my radar mind and open up and wait for a ping from the darkness, I guess.
Yeah.
and then once I say, oh, okay, this song there's a tone to this song and what it wants to be about, and then the words kind of start to flow out that are in context of what I'm intending. So yeah, it's a lot of like making messes and then looking for diamonds in the dog shit.
Well, I remember a long time ago reading about you and Mark Sandman and Supergroup, and you guys had a writing method where you just like, I think you called it a super challenge or something, where you'd like throw out a song title and then try to come up with a song on the spot. Do you still, have you ever tried that?
And I haven't tried that. Well, I am kind of doing that in this context. I'm not doing it in front of an audience like Mark and I used to. So it's a little different. Yeah, that thing with Mark, boy, you talk about Indiana Jones stepping off the cliff and the bridge appears. That's exactly what that was like. It's like every moment was a step into nowhere and hoping that something would happen. That was, and Mark was so fun to do that with because he was supremely confident and cool and like, you know, just like, I used to call him Easter Island Head because he was just like at you. And then I was this like wiry, bouncy, bizarre, surreal, high energy weirdo that would, you know, flap all around him while he just like stood there like a cool cucumber. So anyway, that atmosphere was really a great one to do that in. And yeah, so I think opening up tracks and just, you know, I'm letting improvisation come back into it because that's kind of how I get the lyrical juices flowing these days. So that is kind of great to get that back in. There wasn't a lot of that in The Presidents or the Casper thing. It was more like coming up with a cute idea and then executing it.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, very good. Well, I guess we got to ask the question about Subset. You know, you will be releasing this new album next year. It's been highly anticipated for
many years. I don't even remember what year I first heard about it.
Many years. You know, how has this project now finally found its footing as far as putting it out there for the masses to listen to tangibly?
Yeah, it's been an interesting ride, man. I've seen Mix quite a bit over the years. We've been in the same backstages here and there, and every time I see him, he'd be like, "We gotta get that record out. We gotta get that record out." And I'm like, "I'm not standing in your way. Go ahead," because I was so busy with other stuff like Presidents and Casper. Because Presidents and Casper overlapped for 6 or 7 years too, so that was kind of intense. Anyway. Eventually, like a little while ago, he called me and said he was thinking about doing an NFT, which is a non-fungible token, which is a whole new technology for getting intellectual property out there. It's more about scarcity and or creating the illusion of scarcity, I guess. It really hurts my brain to think about NFTs. I have a hard time with it, so I can't really explain what it is exactly. But it's a digital unique fingerprint on a piece of intellectual property that people buy, and a lot of them are profile pictures that are made by artists, and then you buy your unique version of that art from that artist. And they get expensive, you know, they get up like, I think Wu-Tang Clan did an album and they got $2.5 million for the, you know, you do a pyramid thing where the top of the pyramid is a unique box set with one-of-a-kind stuff in it, and then you do like, you know, less unique tiers going down.
Okay.
Anyway, there's also a world in which, because it's a little weird for us because we don't want to make it hard for regular people to get this, so we're trying to come up with ways to do the NFT but also take care of people who are not tech savvy. But there's the reason we're doing an NFT is because the NFT universe is so full of collectors that they will collect whatever is out there. And so if we get into that stream, more people will hear the record. So anyway, we're trying to figure out a way, like I think we'll do physical vinyl also, and, you know, it's all we're in talks with people.
Oh, very
good.
Know
what they're Yeah. But it's really, really nice to be connected with Mix again. I mean, that guy, I love him. We toured together. We had a great time. We played a lot of shows. He and I get along really well. He's the guy that got me into recording with Pro Tools and stuff like that. I was using cassettes before that. So, and he was like, no, you got to. He like dragged me into the future. So
yeah,
I'm forever in debt to him.
Well, when Subset was announced that this was going to be an actual thing, there was a lot of hype, coming down the pipeline about it, and then all of a sudden we just kind of forgot about it.
Yeah.
How do you kind of regain that hype again for something like this that has been kind of forgotten, maybe slightly?
Oh yeah, totally. Well, part of it is participating in the NFT universe because, again, there's so much energy around that right now. You just have to put your toe in the water and it'll get bitten off. So there's that. And then, we're not really trying to do anything huge with it. I think we got a little tripped up back in the day about trying to do something huge with it. We got really excited and, there was it's funny that the band was called Subset. Well, I mean, the reason the band was called Subset, I made up the name, was because I thought, well, if you take Dave and Jason and Mix-a-Lot and me, and you look for the common ground musically, it's going to be pretty small. It's going to be pretty specific. So it's like a subset of the four of us. But that little area where our circles intersected got way too small. And I think Dave and Jason kind of wanted things to sound more like a band, and Mix and I wanted to push it to sound a little more out of a electronic box. And stuff like that happened. There were some business things that happened that we all kind of got screwed up on when we went on tour. And anyway, so yeah, it kind of crumbled under the weight of its own expectations. So now we're avoiding that by having no expectations.
Oh, very good. Very good. Jeff, you got the next one? Or you want me to take the next one?
Well, I was just going to say this kind of leads into the Feelings Hijackers. So you had a couple albums with Out of Sight, I believe is the artist name. How does this compare to the Sir Mix-a-Lot? And can you talk a little bit about those recording process?
Oh, yeah. Well, that was Mike was the hype man or whatever in Subset. So it was me and Dave and Jason and Mix, and then Mike was our extra guy. And he had some standout vocal stuff. And when we went on tour, like he would do a song or two that was his during our show, too. Oh, and when we went on tour, Mike and I just really hit it off because he loves rock and roll. He loves guitars. He loves, a lot of things I loved at the time. And so when Subset fell apart, I was like, well, there's all these songs that existed for me before Subset. I'd made all these songs up on 4-track, and I'd been recording them over the years. And I was like, well, I've got this batch of weird songs I've never released. Let's try them in Subset. And then when Subset fell apart, I was like, let's try them in Feelings Hijackers. And so the sampledelic stuff that I was doing kind of became the backdrop for me and Mike figuring things out. Now, Mike, as a lyricist, was so incredible to work with because I would give him an instrumental and a title, and then he didn't know what I was after. I wouldn't tell him what I was intending, but the tone of the music and the content of the title would inspire him to write these incredibly abstract, bizarre raps, which I loved because they weren't really about how great he was or how great we were, which is kind of typical, like they were more about just abstract stuff. Like we had one song about the internet and one song about a limousine that was dirty.
Yeah. I was watching the video for that one today. That was cool.
What's that?
I was watching the video for that one today. That was pretty cool.
Oh yeah, there's a video. Yeah. So anyway, I loved working with him because that was kind of a glimpse into where I am now, which is this like impressionistic impressionistic lyric writing, like imagery. So that was fun, and we did some shows. But it was weird because we didn't want to start a band. Actually, Jason Finn played drums with us for a couple shows, which was kind of funny. So we had a backing track, and I had an acoustic guitar that wasn't plugged into anything, and we just like stomped around on the stage. I'd take the vocals out of the track, so we would do the vocals live. So yeah, that was fun. That was a fun experience, and I love Mike. He's a great guy. But it kind of ran its course. And actually, some of the stuff I'm doing now, I'm taking some of the instrumentals from the Feelings Hijackers, just the bones, like the beat or something, and kind of using them as a springboard because right, the way I work is I have thousands of old ideas, and I just sort of listen to them and go, oh, that'll work for this project.
Oh, yeah.
And then, I just kind of flesh them out. So anyway, I've been listening back to the Feelings Hijackers and kind of digging it and kind of mining that for some vibes for this new stuff.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah.
I wanted to take this to 1998. The Giraffes released their first album, and then in 2015, the Giraffes released their final album, We Hear the Music. It's a 33-track double album. Can you talk more about the creation of a 33-track double album?
Yeah, well, actually, those... Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, and how massive of an undertaking it had to have been.
Actually, it wasn't massive at all because I had recorded them all over the years. They were all recorded for sort of They weren't actually recorded to be Giraffes songs. They were kind of recorded to be just me screwing around in the studio. And it wasn't until 2015 when I was kind of... I was actually listening through my library looking for Casper Babypants nuggets, like old, song sketches that might be something I could use for Casper. And I started hearing all these songs that sounded like Giraffe songs or were, from that era, written in that era. And I was like, oh, shit, I mean, I have so many. I could just, I have this one and that one and this one and that one and this one and that one. And I didn't have the masters for them. I just had the 2-track. So I just threw them in Pro Tools and compressed them a little bit and EQ'd them and arranged it. It was like, before I knew it, I had a double album. So it was more about cleaning house and just saying, you know what, there's no reason for these to gather dust on the hard drive. I should share them with the world. And so I released it for free. I gave it to the super fans. There were these 4 guys who, between 1998 and 2002, when we were broken up and then got back together, these 4 guys on the fledgling internet kept the little candle flickering, like, we're out here. They'd email me and be like, we're out here. We're waiting. We believe in you.
Awesome.
Kind of stuff. And these guys are still close friends of the band. And so anyway, I gave it to them and said, you guys distribute it. And so it'll come from you, and that's what I did. So it was easy and fun and really satisfying to hear those songs, out in the world.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah. The President of the United States of America had a unique sound, and you probably answered this question a million times, but just for our listeners that might be, hearing about you the first time or revisiting. Can you talk a little bit about your guitar, bass guitar, where that came from and how that sound works?
Oh yeah, sure. That was a Mark Sandman influence, really, because he played a 2-string bass with a slide, and then he had a 3-string thing he called a tritar, which was also a slide. And then in his studio, when we were in Supergroup and hanging out, and actually I lived with him for a while, and his studio was in his loft. He had a 2-string set up that was a regular guitar, and I picked it up and just started playing it and went, that's it. This is my home. It was so great because I could wear my influences on my sleeve. I could play what I thought sounded exactly like a Kiss song or a Buzzcocks song or a Sex Pistols song or a Clash or whatever, but to the world it sounded like me on a 2-string. So every song on the President's record is me trying to be some other band, but you don't know who it is for the most part. Like, I'll say Mach 5 is me trying to be Kiss.
Yeah.
That kind of like Saturday night kind of vibe. Anyway, so I just picked it up and it felt like home, and off I went. And then in the band, I figured, well, we need a 2-string and a 3-string, so we can make slightly more complex chords together. So I started playing through a bass amp and kind of holding down the low part, and Dave started, kind of doing more like a guitar. But then the goal was to make the 2 instruments sound like one instrument, really. One amazing guitar player,
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the whole thing, and it was really fun, and it was a conscious thing too, and especially with the drums, we took away Jason's cymbals. We gave him a tiny splash, like an 8-inch splash, and a tiny little hi-hat. And the reason for that was to make a hole in the sonic landscape for the vocals, for the lyrics. Mm-hmm. If you're battling against all this like cymbal wash and stuff, all the sibilants, the S's and T's get buried in the lyrics. You got to compress the vocals. It gets exhausting. So we wanted to make something really spacious and kind of like rockin' and, sort of relatively heavy, I guess, for the instruments we were playing, but definitely make space, you know. And so here's the story, here's the imagery, here's the joke or whatever. So I've always felt like that's important. Like music where I can't understand a thing the person's saying is missing a dimension. But I also like that sometimes because I like to have my own version of what the singer is saying, you know?
Sure, yeah.
So anyway, that's
Absolutely.
a long answer, but there you go.
All right. So I have one more question for you, and then we'll leave you alone for the night. Deal?
Okay.
All right. So I was watching an interview with you a couple nights ago, and talking about your first musical venture, your first band with a Casio, 80s Casio, the synthesizer / calculator / you could sing into the microphone and it will. Anyway, can you just tell the story for our listeners?
Yeah, that was my very first band. So at 4 years old, I started playing piano, and I kind of started to get groomed to be a classical concert pianist, and I was getting, you know, more and more intense lessons. And by the time I got to about 12 or 13, I was kind of like, oh my God, I don't think I want to do this. It's too much. And then I picked up a guitar, and I was like, oh, that's it. And then I picked up a synthesizer and I went to a store and played a synthesizer. I couldn't afford one. And I was like, this is even better. But that Christmas, the Casio VL Tone was a hot item, so I asked for it for Christmas, and I got it. And it was like a calculator with these buttons that kind of looked like a piano keyboard. And it was just terrible, little weird sounds. You know that song, da-da-da-da?
Yes.
Yeah. That's the VL Tone. That whole song is the VL Tone.
Okay.
So, and then I was like, I want to be in a band, but I didn't know how to be in a band. And I had my brother had a friend, Arnie Livingston, who was a bass player. He ended up being like a very highly regarded like jazz fusion bass player in real life. So I had a competent bass player, and then this friend of mine, Dennis, this Hawaiian guy, played guitar, not very well, but did. And I was like, okay, this is enough. We've got bass and guitar. And I took my VL Tone, I put it on the ground. I took one headphone ear thing off a headphone and put it over the speaker on the VL Tone and ran that into an amplifier. Because if you plug a speaker into an amp, it becomes a mic. So I put the headphone earpiece over the speaker on the VL Tone, and then I went down by that speaker and I sang into that headphone thing along with playing the beat on the VL Tone, the like stock beat, and then also playing a melody on the VL Tone and singing into that headphone. So I was doing drums, synthesizer, and singing on the ground, all into this tiny little white shitty keyboard. Years later, I saw Neutral Milk Hotel. They're a very arty, weird band from the South. I saw them in Seattle, and they had keyboard players who played they played Casios on the stage by lying down and playing them with their nose. And I was kind of like, I'm identifying with these people. I've been there. We never played live or anything. And our only songs, we had 2 songs, and they were both based on, I don't know if cable TV was even happening or MTV was happening, but somehow I had seen some video of a Japanese band, and I just thought it was the coolest song ever, but I couldn't remember the song. You know, I had this image of this Japanese band in black leather in a white space, and they were playing this angular, cool song. I still, to this day, don't know what it was. But every song we did in that band, which was embarrassingly called Spastic Action, was me trying to imitate this song I couldn't remember.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
It's like, it's kind of like this, you know, like, yeah. So, yeah, terrible. But it was fun, and it was like, you know, we couldn't afford mic stands.
Sure.
So when you can't afford mic stands, you go on the floor. You know, that was the Seattle ethic. It was like, do it yourself. Don't wait for the man to tell you can do it, and don't wait for mic stands.
Oh, fantastic.
Well, I guess as a Presidents fan, it would behoove me not to ask. I know you guys have been, called it quits and since 2015. Is there any chance there'll ever be another Presidents record?
Boy, you never know. I mean, when we broke up in 2008, when did we break up in? 1998. I thought, that's it, for sure, I'm done, yay. And then 5 years later, we got back together, and we're together for 13 more years. So Who knows? If there's anything I've learned with that band, it's never say never.
Yeah,
but
fair enough.
I will say that, I just can't imagine being in a scenario where I'm injuring my ears again.
Yeah.
It was loud, and it got louder and louder as we got older and older. And I had in-ear monitors toward the end. I wore earplugs in the early days. Back when I was with Beck, I wore big, airport worker earmuffs on stage, and everybody said I looked like I was getting signals from another planet. Anyway, protecting my hearing has always been a big deal, and so, willingly walking back into a scenario where I'm going to continue to make my ears worse is probably not going to happen. But I have thought of I've imagined a President's Reunion tour where it's Dave, Jason, me, and Andrew, and we're all playing acoustic guitars, and we have a set on stage that's a back porch of a shack.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
And we do a sing-along. It's not about us singing the song. The entire crowd sings, and we just sing the songs and we have a little campfire on stage, and we just do that. So
sounds fantastic.
I can see it. No, I don't know if it'll ever happen, but it's entered my brain. So there's a sliver of hope for you.
Oh, there you go. Right. Well, hey, we have come down to our allotted time, but before we let you go for the evening, is there anything that you would like to plug or promote that we did not cover tonight?
My wife, Kate. She's an amazing artist, like I said earlier, and everybody should check out her art. She sells her art at the Pike Place Market here in Seattle, and she does amazing. She did all the album covers for Casper Babypants. She's coaching me about what to say. She's moving owls around in our house right now. Anyway, she's great. If you have little kids or if you're just a whimsical adult, go to kateendle.com. That's KateEndle.com, just so you know. And, buy her art, because we just built her a huge studio, and she needs to sell some art.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. First of all, I want to thank you for your correspondence and agreeing to do this and at the time and everything. I said, we can't thank you enough. You were fantastic. And like I said, we'll have this ready for you right around, I'm guessing, right before Thanksgiving, I think, Jeff. What do you think? That's fair? And then we'll post it to all of our socials, and we'll put it to groups in the socials and everything else. And if you could share it, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, no problem. Just send me links when the links are linky.
All right, man. All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Have a great night, you guys.
You too. Take care. Bye-bye.
Everybody if they ever take from you, then